All right, we are live and uh, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patience. It will just be the three of us tonight. Our mayor and Commissioner Wilkinson are out of town, but should be back, I think, for the next workshop. Before we get started, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Granum to let him give some opening comments.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Commissioners, and welcome to our second of 4 budget workshops. The first one was a couple of weeks ago where we went over the current year budget and sort of set the stage for a good budget conversation. Tonight, we will hear from 3 of the departments of the city: fire, police, and court. And this is an opportunity for those subject matter experts, those department directors, to speak directly to the commission. Not everything you will hear tonight will be necessarily included in my budget estimate, but it is information that they want to share on the record about what's going on in their area of service delivery and pass that along to the commission. Regarding the budget estimate, my intent was to have it tonight, but it just didn't work out this budget season. And I'm just gonna chalk it up to, we don't have a CFO in the building, and it just really became impossible to coordinate all those moving parts without that go-to person in the middle. That's not to say that our interim CFO isn't doing a fantastic job. She is, absolutely. It just was not possible to pull it all together and have it ready for this evening. We will have it ready, the budget estimate formally, which is my and staff's presentation to the commission before the 30 April 4th budget workshop. So our goal tonight is to hear directly from those 3 departments. And I will also remind everybody to sign in. We are encouraging people to attend our budget workshops. And this is our second of 4, I mentioned. If you attend in person 3 of the 4, and tell us that you've listened to the other one on YouTube, we will award you the budget certificate from the city of Red Bank. And it will demonstrate to everybody that you have really dialed in on the shaping of the budget. These workshops are really where the conversations are at that inform the decisions that the commission has to make. So thank you very much, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Granum. I'm not sure in case everybody doesn't know, this is just a workshop. We don't vote at these meetings, and nothing, will formally be decided upon. It's just for us to hear the presentations from our departments and for us to ask questions, and then citizens will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end for items on the agenda today. So I guess if everybody's ready, we'll go ahead and get started. The first item on the agenda is our police department budget presentation. Chief Seymour.
Start with your. Yes. Well, in case technology fails or whatnot, and you can't see the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
So there's going to be several documents that we'll be referring to. I think in front of, well, this is just a copy of my presentation, but also there is kind of the budget estimates that we have that we normally we get like in a packet, but in that today is just those department heads that are going over their sections today instead of the whole thing. So because it is a lot, as we're learning, and all of us for sure. So so we'll just get started, I guess, get kicked off here. So let's turn on my clicker here. So, all right. Ooh. I just wanted to review a little bit about kind of our current service delivery, just kind of where we are at the police department. Total staffing, we have 28 full-time employees, total civilians and sworn. So we are authorized for 26 sworn officers, chief, deputy chief, one in our professional standards who has multi-hats, right? He does the professional standards, includes training, accreditation, internal affairs. He also governs our, looks over field training program, reserve program. I can go on and on.
Is that Andrew?
That is Sergeant Alberg.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, no, it's okay.
Thank you.
And then under that, we have our criminal investigation division, which includes a total of 4, which is supervised by a sergeant. And then we have a major crimes detective, but a lot of his duties are also part of the property evidence as well as investigating cases. And then we have a narcotics detective that will work other cases, but his primary responsibilities are narcotics related. Then, of course, our VCIF detective, crimes detective, who does a lot of different things currently. Then in our patrol division, we have about 19. So of those 19, you have a sergeant and 3 to 4 officers per shift. We have 1 or 2 officers that will row between shifts to kind of help cover any shortages and things like that, and the K9. Records coordinator and our office manager who just does tons of work, right? Handles the phone calls, the walk-ins, and it is, I can't go into all the day-to-day, I could, but it would be here all night, all the day-to-day stuff they have to do as far as entering reports and correcting them, and warrants and orders of protection and all this stuff. So that's kind of what we're staffed. Plus, don't want to forget about our reserve officers. We also have a certified part-time who was full-time, but we rolled him to part-time. He helps a lot with our SWAT training and firearms training and other things if need be. And then, of course, we have a chaplain that's just a volunteer as part of this big component there. I think you've probably seen this, and sorry for the inconsistencies on this presentation, but this program didn't convert the PowerPoint quite perfectly there. But this is just a basic breakdown. I think y'all have been emailed this and have this. Just kind of gives you an idea of all the positions and about where they are in the department and some of the responsibilities as well. This just kind of gives you an idea. All that staffing. Okay.
Clear number.
Okay. And if y'all have a question, by all means, I may get to speaking a little quickly and all, because I don't want to be here at 10 o'clock, but and I don't know if anybody else does either. So, but I also want to educate you and make sure that we're clear on things too, for sure. So our calls, activities, I mean, depending on what numbers where we pull from it, around 9,500 is the calls for service, which equals out to about 26 calls a day that we receive. Not all of those are report calls or anything, but that's quite a bit for our area. Our calls of service though stays right around between that 9,000 and 10,000 mark pretty much consistently each year for the last several years. So right in there. We're not like we're having a huge spike of call volume or anything like that. Although last month we had probably 100, 150 more calls last month than we have been averaging in the last few months for some reason. So just some of the things there. You can see our citations and all that, but it's there for you to reference if you'd like to. Just reviewing kind of our fleet and what we kind of have, what we use. We typically have about 19 vehicles that are used in patrol and with K9. Obviously, we have some vehicles for our detectives to use and administrative officers, staff. We also have to have our special purpose vehicles for our transport vehicles, special operations. We do have some spares also, vehicles break. Matter of fact, I had one officer that had to go through 3 vehicles just to get home the other night because get into one and it had a problem and, anyway.
I never had that problem when I had equipment.
So, and plus knowing how long it's taken to get vehicles and all, it's just good to have an adequate amount of that. We also have 2 vehicles, civilian vehicles that are no longer able to use as emergency services. One of them, Stacy, our IT manager, has been using it to go to meetings and go facility to facility. And then we also have another one for use for other city employees or whatnot that just kind of came back. It was repaired, involved in the crash, so but it's back now for that. So we have more vehicles in this, but this is what we're kind of trying to stick with, and then the others will be slated to be sold or whatnot. So
Chief Seymour, I have a question.
absolutely.
Are the 2 new patrol cars part of the 19 here?
They will be, yes. That's the hard thing is, like right now, we have more vehicles than this because those aren't on the road yet.
Right.
But I still have to have vehicles on the road. So when those come on the road, then we will take some off the road.
Okay.
And we'll get into a little bit more detailed discussion on that, a little later in the presentation,
Sure.
for sure. So,
Thank you.
a good question. Yeah, that's where it can be confusing, for sure. Just some quick bullet points here, and I'm gonna go into details as we go through the budget. Our personnel cost, there is an increase in our personnel cost that I'm estimating this year. The estimate includes a 3%, approximate 3% cost of living adjustment for all employees. Also, there was an adjustment that we made in our policy handbook last year as far as has to do with holidays. So we have to budget that in this year. So that's going to show a little bit of an increase. Plus also, we got word that they increased the retirement percentage that we have to pay into TCRS. So obviously that increases, and my estimation was it increased about 1.5% or so increase there. But also of that 226 increase, that also includes though a $70,000 grant funded position. So even though it shows 226 increase, we're still that's going to help offset. The cost is not going to be as much because we get reimbursed for that salary. So,
Chief,
yes.
can you remind me when that grant ends?
Yes.
It was like 3 years, I think, and I can't remember.
The third year we really didn't participate in because it started about this time
Okay,
2
okay,
years ago. So we're still in the first cycle.
okay,
July 1 will start the second year. So it will go to the end of this next fiscal year. Fiscal year 25, it will end into that June.
and that's when we'll have to decide if we're gonna budget for that out of the general fund?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Operations, there's an increase. Obviously, a big part of that is 911 fees that was increased 13%, which is about a little over $25,000 for our part. Fire department they also have the increase because we share that cost as well. And there's a debt service increase that we want to replace some vehicles with. That will be part of that figure as well. And then the capital, not a huge change on there. I mean, there's a little bit of an increase, but also I'll get to that, but it shows a cost of the purchasing of the vehicles in there where we have not included that in our budget estimates in the past. So that I don't want that to throw you off, but like I said, we'll talk about that a little more as we move on. So I'll first start off talking a little bit about, so I've got something a little different than what you have in your hands. You have my presentation, but you also have this document that staff have been working on. And the columns are a little different. What I did on mine is in my left column, I included what we budgeted last year, not there's a few amendments that we made during the year, and this doesn't reflect that. It just reflects what we budgeted for kind of this time last year and compared to what we're estimating presenting for this coming year. So salaries, you can see a little bit of increase there, but like we said, most of that is the increase in the 3% COLA. And also with that is the VCIF detective position as well, about $70,000 or so. So we had to divide that grant up, and 1 year was like 69, the other one's about 70. So just give or take a few $100. Overtime, I'm just estimating, just increasing it a little bit as we've added staff and as our salary rates have gone up and all. I just am trying to budget with a little more in line with that. So hopefully that we won't go over with that. Our previous finance director actually several years ago said, we've adjusted salaries, but we haven't really done a good job adjusting our inflation rate, based on inflation rate, the overtime that we spend. So that's kind of the cause for that. The part-time, we do have one part-time position currently. I bumped that up just a little bit with anticipation. We've had a certified officer that's reached out to us, wanted to come and work part-time with us, and that could help offset when we're shorthanded or in training or whatnot, and they could be a little more usable on the scheduling. So I just included a little more funding in that to allow for that for two part-time individuals. Police supplement, just like it will be on the fire supplement, that's a wash. Right, that's money that we get in from the state when officers or firefighters complete their required in-service training. And so even though it shows that as a cost, it really is reimbursed. So,
Chief,
yes.
did you just say, I'm sorry, the part-time, did you say that that's a budget for 2 part-time officers? You currently have 1, so you would be looking to hire on a second one? Okay.
Right. Last year we looked at this, we were looking at one of our full-time persons were probably might have had to adjust and leave full-time to go to part-time. So we kind of adjusted there, but even then they would have had limited time. So that's really, it is, the intent is to kind of have for 2
2
part-time.
flexible part-time officers. Okay, thank you.
Sure. The holiday next line item, so that really is just based on the hourly rate, and that's based on the idea that we want to be that employer choice of excellence, right? And so we made some adjustments in that personnel manual this last year that y'all approved, and so we last year's budget didn't reflect those changes, so this year is what reflects that. So that benefit. And the thing about the holiday pay, you know, we budget for that. We're not always fully staffed, and not all employees take advantage of the holiday pay all the time anyway, so we usually come under on that. Longevity pay is a little bit, you know, based on numbers and percentages changing, so that's actually a good thing. If we're paying out more, that means people are staying. So that's definitely a good thing for the city. I've had actually, and I'll throw this out to you as a kudos and thank you. I've heard several employees here say, you know, I can't go anywhere else and get paid this or have these benefits. And so, and they'd say, well, they've looked. Well, so this is like, but I can't. I like it here, and the benefits are really good. And so that, in essence, has done what we've intended for it to do. Is keep good employees for sure. So sorry for my squirrel moment there. I get these little rabbits and squirrels. If you don't know me, I get those all the time.
That's great. Thank you.
No amen from the congregation.
Amen, Chief.
So then the Christmas bonus is about the same. FICA, of course, goes up and everything. Retirement, that's an increase. Not a lot we can do on that cost because they increase the percentage that we have to pay into TCRS. Worker comp the same. One thing different on this year's budget, education and training is really more, I guess, related to personnel than is operations. In previous years, that number I've included in my operations budget, but here it's we put in the personnel costs. So that's kind of the personnel costs. You can kind of see the increase there. Most of it's just like I said, that salaries. About $70,000 of it though is that VCIF grant position as well. This next page we kind of get into our operational costs. So with this, that line 200 is a big one, but the majority of that is the increase, that about 25,000 or so. That is the increase to the 911 fees that they did. And you know what they're trying to do is they really stay a year behind, right? As they increase that, and you know the Hamilton County government gives raises, and a lot of times the 911 center is about a year behind because they're kind of reactive to that, and they have problems hanging on to good people too. So. Honestly, we couldn't run our own dispatch system for even a fraction of that, right? So that's a benefit. And then there were some others. So contractor services, right, are a lot of things that we have agreements on, or services, technology, or whatever that comes for the police department. So a lot of those increased by like 3% or so almost every year anyway, kind of automatically. So that's the majority of the increases like that should be from that. Record service, I went up on it because, you know, we've been reviewing our record ordinance and we'll be proposing that. And so the record fees will increase. So it just makes sense if our record fees increase, then the cost of towing vehicles will increase as well. Publicity is the same. Cellular telephone, so we've added one or two positions right this year, so we have some added costs with, some cellular technology and.
How many cell phones do we have?
Laptops. 10 cell phones, but we've got 20 laptops.
They're like $10 a month kind of things, or what?
I think cell phones are, depending on the plan, like 30, 35, about $30, and then the laptops are about 25, something like that.
Seems like it seemed like you could be shopped right there. 'Cause, you know, cell phone communicate. Oh, but then now these are those proprietary cell phones, right? These are the ones that come on first, correct?
Yes, sir. but
Yeah,
FirstNet-
Yeah, all right. I remember that. See, it's all coming back to me now.
When AT&T had their big outage, our phones still work.
Right,
Mm.
okay.
We'll see what you brought it up. So I've got $42 per phone, approximately, give or take. The laptops are about $37 a month. So per device, and that's unlimited. And then, yes, with us in the fire department, that is FirstNet. So that's, we have approximately 25 laptops with that, because we can't just have for every officer. We have to have officers, and then we have to have a couple of spares that work as well. And then we have 12 cell phones as part of that. So.
How many of those are in the patrol cars? 19? Each patrol car has a computer.
Right, and then I have one, the deputy chief has one, and then, right, and then we have a couple of spares as well. Yep. Professional services, that again is just kind of where we take testing and different things, or drug screens and all that kind of comes out of that. Really no change there. Vehicle repair maintenance, obviously, this year we're doing well on that, keeping that the same. The next line item, 269, is our connection to the TBI. We have to pay, it's a set fee. And it hadn't gone up. Well, I don't want to jinx us, but I don't think it's gone up in a few years, so that's pretty good. Travel, so I did increase that because we're close to maximizing that this year, and we, as you know, hotel costs and all after this last year or two just seemed like they have gone up more and more. So we're trying to better estimate that amount on our travel as well. Supplies the same, small items equipment are the same. Some of the small items equipment we've got in there this year, and that's what works on repairing our radios or buying spare batteries for our radios. And also we have in there to replace and work on outdated two-way radios, whether they're in the car or portables on everybody that they carry. So we have funding in there to replace some of those as well. Uniform allowance is the same. Fuel is the same. I think we're doing pretty good on that. We don't budget in 332. We take those all out of that previous line item on vehicles. Tires and tubes, leaving that the same. That seems to be very adequate. Office equipment rental, that's for our copier. Although I think it's being taken out of a different line item now, but I've got that budgeted because that's what our intent was, to pay for our copiers here at the police department. The debt service, so there's an increase in that. You can go from 120 to 227,000, and that is to purchase and replace about 6 of our vehicles. And I'll get into a little bit more detail with that because I've got a couple of slides, as you'll see, that have to deal with that, because I'm sure that's a big part of our budget increase this year. So we'll talk about that. Awards, and then that special fund, which we really don't use because we kind of use drug fund for some of that as well. The capital section, so taking the first line has that $407,000. Now that could seem like it's a shock to you. In the past, when we've made budget presentations to you, we haven't included the cost of what it would be when we obtain like a capital improvements project loan, right? And so that really, this is just a accounting way of accounting for the funds. So, and also that we count the vehicles as an asset. So it's not like we're spending $407,000 in this budget year for that. That would be part of the debt services, which was in the previous section of adding to that on the vehicles. So even though it shows that we're going up $400,000 on that 407,000, it's really not. We're not spending that entire amount. It's just for the
I'll just
documentation.
add, it's more for transparency. You're gonna have the 407 offset in the revenues as loan proceeds. So it basically washes. And so what we're actually paying for is gonna be in the debt service line.
The story behind this is actually 6 police vehicles, just to make it real, right, Chief? Yep.
So I guess, so how much or how long are we going to be paying for those vehicles?
4 years.
4 years. Okay. And so
Okay, well, yeah.
And that's.
I guess
total-
you said you were gonna talk about that.
Well, I'm just
here.
gonna get through this and then
That's
come back to it and talk. It
Okay.
doesn't matter to me which way we
Nope,
do
that's
it.
fine. That's good. Thank you.
I will add, just as context, one of the things that we're trying to do is get out a capital improvement program.
Yeah.
And that will give you a look at the capital picture. And so this year with a new CFO and a different, look at how to, show on the budget, the capital ins and outs, you're seeing suddenly a big giant number in the police department line. Hopefully, next year, we'll have a capital improvement plan, which will give you an outlook, and you wouldn't be surprised by hearing now for the first time, we need 6 police cruisers next year.
Right.
You would have understood that, and you would have also understood our approach to show it to you in the budget, but then you can anticipate the offsetting revenue when the loan comes in on the revenue side too. So it's just kind of a different financial accounting approach, and the fact that we're just now telling you about 6 cruisers, and by the way, that's all in, so it's completely upfitted with all the bells and whistles.
But
Chief.
Like Jennifer was saying and Mr. Brandon were saying, it's kind of like the police supplement pay, right? We have to show where we pay it out, but there's a revenue item to show that it comes in. So kind of the same thing there.
I got a question too here.
Sure.
Because I mean, this looks like that's going to pretty much skew these numbers. I figured this up, and I'd like to see this auto report, a percentage column. How much a percentage increase, decrease, where we're at on our variances. That's what I'm used to looking at in a budget, is seeing where my variances are, seeing where my percentages are, and then we can talk about those items. But right now we're at 18% increase, if I'm not mistaken, here on our budget thing. But I don't know how much of that is skewed by the 400,000 and the 200,000 on our debt services.
Well, so I've got total, include everything, it looks like there's about 28%. If you
Okay.
take out that 407,000,
Right.
I've got approximately 13%.
Okay.
Based
That's it.
on-
That,
Based on my figures, right?
but that's kind of where I like looking. I don't know if anybody else does or not.
I think that makes the most sense so that you can compare apples to apples.
Right.
This year's appropriation for law enforcement versus last year's appropriation.
If we see, if it was a 20% increase in personnel, but we also added another employee, and that takes care of the $80,000, well, then at least you know where it's at,
Yeah.
or it's a COLA, it's a 3% cost of living increase, it just my 2 cents.
Understood.
Sure. Couple, these line items there have to do like the equipment and grants, office machinery and all have to do, we're adding and replacing some of our e-citation devices. So that's several $1,000s for each one of those. Also, it allows for some computer replacements, like a key fob manager type of thing that we're wanting to do, and also a kind of an event observation camera system that we can deploy at like special events and all to watch and observe, make sure there's no problems in the crowds, or if we have a call out situation and all, just kind of some of that to allow the technologies. we've also had talked about, and dare I say, but kind of a search and rescue type of drone, in that when we have, we're gonna do one or the other. We're not doing both, but likely I'll do the portable, observation, camera for special events and whatnot, so benefits and cons to each, but that's what those costs, primarily, look at, and that's the total amount, including that $407,000, as well. So that's really the general fund police department, budget, until we start talking about the vehicles. So yes, ma'am.
The observation camera as opposed to a drone for special events, one or the other. Okay,
Yeah, I didn't put in there to allow for two. I mean, the cost would almost double. So, we've talked about pros and cons, but in trying to get with this, I don't know which exact direction we're gonna go, because they both have benefits.
now,
For
do
sure.
other municipalities utilize that type of
Yes, ma'am.
technology?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good idea, yeah.
Chattanooga has Hamilton County, Collegedale. I
East
don't know
Ridge
about-
does, I think, don't they?
So,
I think they have their own.
And these are not, and clear transparent, these are not like LPRs, that we had all that. These are, like, if we do a portable, it has to attach to one of our vehicles, it has to be set, it's permanent, it's not mobile. It can be set up for like our special events to observe and just make sure there's no shenanigans going on in the crowd, or whatnot. Or an event that especially like a SWAT call out situation, we have maybe a crime scene, whatever, and have to have a different view, of that scene, that type of thing.
Interesting, yeah.
Was that line item 947 that you were just talking about?
It is, yes,
Okay.
that's why it's a little bit more because
Okay.
of those items. And then like a key fob manager, right? Because we're still using paper, we don't know where keys are, or excuse me, that's not correct. We know where keys are, there's not a adequate, our solution currently is not very practical, in tracking keys as we use those for different, we have protocols in place, but it's just not conducive, it's not the best way to practice business there, so. We had that built in. I actually had, well, anyway, so that's where we're at on that. Any question on that, and we'll roll to this other one. So I got a couple of slides here, and I'm gonna go to the second slide really, and then go back. I debated about what order to put these in. So if you look at this one, this gives you an idea, in the right column is kind of our current miles, right? And so the red, you can see really high, orange is, we really need to get rid of them. Yellow, it's going to be close, this next year, because we'll put $10,000 to $20,000 on a vehicle, 10,000 to 20,000 miles on a vehicle each year. You can see the number of vehicles that we have that were bought, in these years, and this is, plus we have them a large number year after year. And what we're wanting to do on this capital improvements plan, right, is not to buy 2, 3, 4 vehicles every year, but maybe every second or third year, and create, that plan, right? And so in our plan that we proposed is this year would be time to order about 6 of those vehicles. We would skip next year, and then we would replace more the following year because we would get up on the miles. What happened, several things happened here, but during this time, we had a lot of the Dodges that were rolling out, and we were going to these new PIUs, but also we had the Volkswagens, and there was the deal with the emissions. And so we were required to sell those back. And because we had so many of them, we had to buy a lot of vehicles at one time. And so that's why there's going to be a lot of vehicles that are going to hit and expire on mileage around about the same time. So that's just kind of giving the idea on the kind of the years, but this does not include anything about engine hours. So one thing really, the industry standard for police vehicles is useful life is about 100,000 miles or about 10,000 engine hours. And these are vehicles that have to be in condition that can respond quickly to emergencies, right? And we don't have to worry about them being broken down on the side of the road. That we can get to the calls when people need that. when I was looking at what vehicles to replace, though, when I started looking at this, I was looking at this using the 120,000 mile standard. Many agencies, law enforcement agencies use 120,000 as a standard to get rid of vehicles. So I just entered into that. Had discussions with our fleet manager, and that's where we got the 100,000 and 10,000 hours. As you know, these police vehicles are offices, and the technology that's in them, the engines have to run, a lot. And so because of that, they a lot of times get more engine hours on them than they really do miles. So my point here is looking at this chart. We got unit 842, right? The first one. It's 180,000 miles on it, but it's practically gone. As soon as I get one of these vehicles is actually being equipped as we speak. It's at the vendor. So once we get it, that car will be gone. We're going to sell it. Then you have these others. What I'm trying to do is plan this year of what vehicles are going to hit that 120,000 mark or so. Because I don't want to order 2 this year, then 2 next year. I'm trying to project that. So with that, my best estimate is we're going to need about 6 of those vehicles. Even though some of these vehicles will show like 118,000, 112,000, but if I took about an average of maybe around 14,000, 15,000 miles average use and added those to that to project what they would hit in about a year from this last February, March when I worked on this. Plus, not really included in the ones we're replacing. We're just waiting for more cars to hit the road. But these Dodgers are going to be gone. They need to be gone. They need to be gone 2 years ago. But with COVID and supply chain issues, and at least they worked to get people home or to point A to point B. So, but the intent's there. And actually, one or two of them are at our impound lot to be out of service anyway. So this just kind of gives you the idea of that. This goes in with our capital improvements plan. With this, though, based on a 4-year loan and percentage rate, it's adding about $107,000 to our debt service. Even though it goes up to the proposed $227,000, this year we have one debt that is going to be rolling off. So next year, this $227,000 will be about $46,000 less next year because we have a couple of debt services that are pending, but one of them rolls off this coming year. So like the following year, it won't be as drastic. It won't look 226,000, right? Or 227. It'll be 180,000.
Chief, you mind if I jump in?
Oh, absolutely.
Commissioners, one of the things that we will give you later on is a comprehensive look at the debt service. And it will show the line that's attributable to each of the departments and when debt rolls off and what this potential debt increase would be. So you'll have that look later on in the budget process.
The cost of these vehicles I budgeted for the total amount, $407,000 includes the price of the vehicle, which I'm budgeting for hybrids, but from what I'm gathering is we will unlikely be able to get hybrids. They don't know. There's a lot of issues there that currently they're not making them. They had to stop. And so to get vehicles and not waiting another 12 to 18 months, we may have to choose the gasoline, which are about $4,000 or $5,000 cheaper per vehicle. But the cost also includes about $14,000 for equipping. They'll each get a new radio. And after a car's been in service for 8 to 10 years, pretty much the electronics and some of the radios need to be replaced. We have some that are older than that need to be replaced. So that's what this loan includes. It's the vehicle, it's the equipment, the radio, electronics. We usually also try to help offset some of these costs through grants, like through the Traffic Highway Safety Office, right? We try to get grants there to help pay for either camera systems or radar units or whatever it is. We definitely try to utilize that as well. So that's really a breakdown. And The idea, I know, it's very tempting to say, well, could you only do 3 cars or 4 cars? Well, I could, but then next year I'm coming back to say, I need my 3 cars that, we asked for, kind of the previous year, because they'll be getting up on mileage. And that's, because then that will feed into this, where we'll have so many, like every other year. We're really wanting to get on this capital improvements project plan and stick with that as well. And so this gets us there. This is what we anticipated, about 6 cars every other year. Some years maybe 5, 6. I don't know that we would need 7, unless something happens unreasonable, so that's just kind of the idea there. Also, the idea of vehicle costs will go up. So, if we postpone to next year, obviously the cost of cars are going to be there, or equipment. Even the outfitting of my vehicles has gone up a couple $1,000s from what I had projected from last year. So, any questions on the vehicles or capital improvements project or anything? So, the total price tag for 6 is about $407,000. That, again, that does include hybrids. We may not be able to get the hybrids though, includes the outfitting and all, but that is spaced out over 4 years, right? Approximately $107,000 per year for payments for that. And obviously that's an estimate, right? So, because we don't know, and when the loan's obtained in a few months, you don't know what the percentage rate's actually going to be. But
Or the debt service, you don't know what the interest rate's gonna be either, right?
I just want to make sure I was understanding what you were saying about like 6 cars-ish every 2 years. Is that just like forever and ever?
that's the intent, yes.
Okay. Just
To get
in
on
perpetuity.
a pattern, right?
Right.
Do we get more for it when we do the 120,000 mile thing? I mean, is it significant, or when we sell them, or is there, I'm going to say, where's the cost savings at?
Well, there's thought of that. Well, one cost is a lot of these 2016, 17, 18 cars have the design of the engines are different. And so as they age, we are having to replace a lot of water pumps, and they are internal inside the engine. And so our fleet manager says, at a dealership, they say about 11 hours, but he gets it knocked out in about 8 hours and saves us tons of money. But he's got a whole city of vehicles to manage, right? And so getting rid of some of these older costs, the savings are we're replacing and the maintenance increases. And that's really, I think, where that 120,000 or 100,000 miles comes from, is a lot of the savings are the maintenance that you have to start pouring into older vehicles as well, that there's, breaking down. And even the Volkswagens, we found that out. We bought them, and then there was a lot of maintenance issues that we had not planned for as well. And yes, there's a lot of people that do buy used police vehicles. And obviously if they're running and they're in decent shape, then they'll sell a whole lot better. So we'll recruit that. But some of these vehicles are drug fund purchases. Some of them are general fund purchases. So when we sell those off, we'll have to make sure they go into the correct fund. So.
And ideally, sorry, Jamie, I was just gonna say, ideally, as the years move forward, auto industry hopefully will be making engines more efficient. So, we'll get that cost savings over time.
Right. Yes.
I'm sure those cars are not driven like the typical resident. Y'all are putting putting the force to the,
I mean, not all the time, right? But yes, we definitely have
You're
hard
driven
braking.
hard.
We have different brake pads and rotors and all that on as well. A large part of it, see, we're just talking about miles. I'm not even talking about the engine hours, right? Because they're running, when you're sitting and running radar, you're sitting in the traffic school zone. Well, the vehicle's running, but it's not, acquiring those miles, right? So.
and you have to keep a K9 vehicle, because I noticed on the other
Yes.
slide, you're
Well,
exchanging one for the other.
Well, what we're doing, we've got a new vehicle, right? This 180,000 is gonna be like, it needs to be
It's
gone.
for sale.
It needed to be gone a year ago, right? And it has a lot more engine hours on it, right? So we had a vehicle that we budgeted over a year and a half ago, right? That just came in and we're waiting on the equipment. So it's being equipped. But when that car's at the shop or it has a breakdown, I've got to have a vehicle to put the dog in. And we've been using others. So all we're gonna do is we'll take the cage from the old car and put it in one of these other
Mhm.
cars.
Okay.
And there'll be a spare, but it'll be a canine spare, but it won't be like horrible miles, and a patrol officer can still use it as well. You know, they can't transport a prisoner. I mean, they could, but it would not be comfortable, right? We don't advise, you know,
Yeah.
that they do that for sure, but, yeah, so that's part of the intent. We want to have about 3 spares,
Okay.
give or take, yeah, so. Any questions on the general fund? Cause I got 2 more funds, but I know that's a big part of our budget was the debt service that we're asking for.
Do you know where you are in your budget right now?
On which part?
Just operational budget,
Current year.
just current year.
My estimations are we're in line and I think we'll be under
Okay.
our budget, even with the vehicle that we asked for. We're really, because we're haven't spent everything in our line items, we'll, probably that will be absorbed. So we really won't be able to use a lot of fund balance for that is the intent. But we don't know, there's no, I know we've got some tentative projections that we submitted and that Jennifer worked on, I think, and that's what I think this document is kind of that you provided kind of reflects our estimates of where we are, so.
Yes, and when we prepare the budget estimate and certainly the proposed and ultimately adopted budgets, it will have FY '23 actuals and FY '24 projected, which is the current year is FY '24. And the later we get, more accurate that'll be. And then the FY '25 budget. So you'll have those 3 line items. Last year's actual, this year's projection, and the requested budget. And that will come in the budget estimate document that will provide, not later than the 30th.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And Commissioner Phillips, that will allow you to do that real comparison, apples to apples.
Yeah, variances and percentages. That's what yeah.
At a glance.
Yeah.
And then hopefully through these conversations, you'll understand the service delivery changes that are there, if there's any variances.
You know, talking about, that's where I brought up the officer the other night trying to go home. I had to leave his for repairs, and then he had to get into 2 other vehicles just because he got in one, it had issues, got in another, and it had issues, but he was able to correct that issue. You know, that doesn't happen all the time, right? That's just real life story. You know, we could all stand up here and say that. So, but
I've seen it once or twice. Once or twice.
So these next 2, if that's all the questions on that section, I'm gonna roll into these others. This really shouldn't take long. So we got the drug fund, which is on the next page. So just as a refresher, we talked about this during the last workshop, educational piece, kind of what these funds do, but we get revenues from 2 different places, from state and from federal. So the state is primarily a lot of drug fines. When there's somebody's found guilty of a drug, there's mandatory fines that have to be paid. So a lot of the revenues are from there. And you can see on your sheet, it kind of lists out those revenues, drug-related fines and all that, interest earnings. When we seize a vehicle and it's been awarded to us and we sell that, the proceeds, the money from those vehicles, or even cash, if we seize cash and it goes through the proper hearings and it's awarded to us, then all that stays within this drug fund as well. So that's kind of the typical of that. But we also have the federal side with our partnership with the DEA. So when there is seizures there or money, then we get sharing money from those situations for sales of houses and guns, whatever, vehicles and all that.
Chief, how are the state court drug fines distributed back to y'all?
Excellent question. Where's Miss Donahue?
Okay, I wondered if that was like a court question, maybe?
It's more of a court thing, so.
Okay,
I know our software as well as the county, so,
Mhm.
when there's fines, if somebody's arrested for a drug charge,
Mhm.
part of their fines is coded there so
Okay.
that it is deposited with the city into that checking account or whatever, and it's coded to come into this fund.
so if they get like, referred over to like general sessions or, criminal court, some of that, the fines come back to us?
Yes, we get
Okay.
checks from them,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
part of that. And it's not just drug related, there's
Mhm.
there's other fines and costs, and how all that specifically works, that's a little above what we would like.
That's coming later.
I do know we do get payments like that.
Okay.
These are, the revenues, these are just estimated revenues that we think. Again, the drug fund has to be like law enforcement related, and there's certain rules that we can use on that. But kind of getting into the expenses, really a lot of our expenses are used for the K-9 and the K-9 program. We anticipate likely having to replace our K-9 this year. So really, to most of these funds that we have in here are kind of intended for that as well. Like education and training would help pay for part of the class or training for that. Supplies, which would be kind of for the cost of the dog and all the equipment for there and all that. Plus, it also covers the dog food we got now, with vet bills and all that. So really, this is a fund within itself, right? This is no tax money or anything like that. It has specific revenues that come in, and then there's rules that we have to abide by that we can expend. So it comes in, it goes out, has to stay there, really. So we don't have a lot of funds. Last year we spent a lot of money because we had quite a bit to buy our in-car computers, but this year we don't have as much in there, but it's there. Yeah, so the total there, we were showing a deficit last year, but we really didn't. We had money in the capital account. We just didn't budget for all of it. But this next one's more on you'll see it as an impound fund, which also is referred to as a DOR fund. This just happens to be revenues that are related to DUIs or driving on a revoked license for DUIs. So this primarily has to do with vehicles or vehicle seizures that the state allows us to be able to file for if we stop somebody and they're driving a revoked license who had a conviction of DUIs. And so we don't get a lot here. And really it's more, the money here is kind of to help us recover any costs that we incur to help with our impound lot, which is kind of the impound fund. So if we have that, or to help cover any other overhead or costs that are related to those vehicles, we can use those here. So there's not a lot. We don't expect a lot. We have a couple of vehicles down there now that we'll be selling in the next several months for that, to do that. So, and a lot of the money, like last year, we spent on some of the repairs and upgrades to the impound lot that we have. So that's kind of what some of the money's really intended. We'll work with Director Tate on that to help some of that too. So, yes, ma'am.
The couple of weeks ago when the Compass Group gentleman came in, does this have any impact from them?
Well, they will, whoever we elect to do with Compass Auction or another provider, they would sell the vehicles, and then they would write us a check and then we deposit it in this.
So it's not a line item, it's an external opportunity that could add to the funding.
Well, this is similar to a drug fund in that it's kind of self-contained. So
Okay.
money that's related to it comes in there, so it's very limited, and then that money can be used. That comes out of it. I don't know if that answered your question or not. So if we have a vehicle that we've impounded and we've seized, and it's gone through the hearing, through the state and all, it's been awarded to us, and they say it's y'all's.
Yeah.
Then really the directions is that we do sell it, right? So we sell it and get that revenue from it, and then we are allowed to use that funds to recoup any towing costs that we've had, storage costs, cost and improvements of our storage locations and things like that. So that's what we use the money for.
But it's more of a direct sale from Red Bank.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah, the transactions handled, yes.
Got it.
Yes, they're real back, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So there's not a lot there, but, I mean, we're just anticipating maybe $4,600, this year or whatnot, so. That's all I've got on my presentation, I do believe, so. Overall, is there any questions? I'm sure y'all probably have tons of questions later on. And again, this, like the city manager indicated, this is just a estimate that each of us are providing to you and discussions that we've already had with him. And then I'm sure we'll be working on the budget more to actually give you all the official budget estimate in your hands here in a few weeks.
Vice Mayor, do you mind if I sort of recap what I'm hearing?
Not at all. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Stay up there, chief. I think the big takeaway, 28 full-time employees, status quo. So we're not adding officers, we're not losing officers, we're sustaining the level of effort. The big ask is really the 3% COLA, which you'll see across the city. And the request to recapitalize, a significant piece of the vehicle fleet. And those are the big asks. The rest of it really is just costs that we've encountered. One of the significant ones is 911, and that'll be reflected in the fire budget as well. And as you heard from Mr. Carney last session we had, they're platinum service providers, so there's no quibbling on our part to, accommodate their request for resourcing. We love the work they do. I think they're a national best practice. So, is that it, Chief? COLA and vehicles and the costs that we encounter.
And funding for 2 part-time officers.
Well, we had funding in there. I'm just trying to
Adding
increase
a
a
little
little
bit.
bit to allow
Which
more use of it if we need to.
I
If we
think
need to.
goes to, adding flexibility to our staff being able to
Right.
go to training and things like that.
And often on personnel costs, we typically come under,
Okay.
right? Because we're not fully staffed or
The whole year.
employees don't take advantage of the pay they want off versus taking the holiday pay, that type of thing. So,
All right. Any questions? All right. Thank you, Chief.
all right. I'm sure.
Run while you can.
Thank you.
I think we are going to take a short break. And then when we come back, we will be hearing from our fire chief and deputy chief on their budget.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
5 to 10 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Chief, do you mind asking Alicia the questions?
Oh,
Bless you.
yeah,
You okay?
yeah, I've been holding that in.
Thank you for all the questions. This is the opportunity to just ask those questions. It takes the temperature down when we're just talking.
I
and
need to
asking
write them down.
So we're like.
For our listening audience, we're certified. Hang on, we'll be right back. We're certified.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. This is just a workshop. This isn't a real meeting. I would be.
Put the hammer down.
Okay. You're gonna lead that. Thank you, everyone. Chief Seiler. Mr. McCabe, sorry. Thank y'all. We're gonna have our fire chief gonna get started on his budget presentation, and I guess we'll just ask questions as things go on. And,
Absolutely. I
Right.
laid a piece of paper that kind of walks through our budget
okay,
in front of you on the dais. It just
Thank
kind of, we'll walk you line item through line item as I go through the budget with our PowerPoint. It's just one page instead of multiple pages.
okay.
For the residents in the room, I just explained the Red Bank Fire Department. We were organized in 1971, and prior to that, the fire department was provided by a private company on a subscription basis. The old pay to have your house put out. Yes. We operate out of 2 stations, which are manned 24 hours a day. And members consist of 15 career full-time employees, members who receive compensation for working part-time shifts, and paid on call. And then we have 6 true volunteers who receive no compensation. All members are treated equal, and most of our members carry a radio / pager for response off duty. So that's how we get them. Our equipment, which I'll show a picture in a minute, currently consists of 4 pumpers, a hose / service truck, a rescue truck, and then 3 staff vehicles. This is just kind of a picture of where we started in 1971, the picture in the upper right-hand corner, and then where we are today with the 2 fire stations in Red Bank and our Eagle out front.
And that top right one is the one back here,
That's
right?
the old building back here.
Back here behind the police station.
Police department here.
The police department inherited. You're welcome.
That building was built in 1971 by the JCs.
Oh, wow.
And then the other 2 buildings were built in 81 and 99. This is our fleet today. The middle on the bottom, which is our 2022 pumper. Our refuse truck is a 2021, and then our hose truck is a 1999 model. And then we have our staff vehicles. The fire chief's the vehicle assigned to the fire chief, the vehicle assigned to the deputy fire chief, and this vehicle assigned to the training division. Some other things about the fire department. Our annual budget for this year is $1.918 million, which includes salaries, benefits, supplies, contracted services, utilities, facilities, maintenance, and equipment. All of our members are state certified firefighters. Included are rescue technicians, which are vehicle and rope, which we tend to, those guys want to do that extra. Those vehicle and rope technicians really go through a lot of extra training to be able to get those certifications, or especially if they have a passion for that. We have hazardous materials technicians. Of course, we've got just a few paramedics, EMTs, our EMRs. Of course, we're always training. That's the whole thing behind the fire service, training. And annually we're averaging 1,000 calls a year for service, which is almost 3 calls a day for our little town. That's definitely up. When I started years ago, we were lucky to run 500 calls a day. A little bit about our staff. Administratively, we have fire chief, and I also am the residential building inspector. We have the deputy fire chief, who's also the fire marshal, and then we have our assistant fire chief, who is a volunteer member. In our operations division, we have 4 captains, 3 of which are full-time employees and 1 which is a part-time employee. Then we have 4 lieutenants, 3 of which are full-time employees and 1 which is part-time. On the captains, we do have an opening in one of those positions. We have 22 firefighters / driver pump operators. 9 of those are full-time employees and 13 are part-time. We have 9 firefighters in the part-time division. In our training division, of course, we have one gentleman, and he's a captain and the instructor coordinator. And then our support staff, we have a chaplain who is a volunteer, and then we have 4 true volunteers who If they're available, we'll help on fire scenes. They'll do anything from changing air bottles to basically whatever we need on the outside of the structure. They won't go inside, but if they come, they help tremendously on the outside of the, of structure fire. Our principal services offered is we not only respond to fires, but we're an all hazards fire department. So rescue services, hazardous materials, service calls, public education programs, and building and life safety inspections. We're also a member of the Tri-State Mutual Aid Association. So if an emergency occurs that requires more than what we have on duty and what we can handle, then we get help from Tri-State Mutual Aid. And it is now an association that has grown to cover 4 states: Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and North Carolina. Western North Carolina actually is part of it now. So we're looking at, you have like DeKalb County, Alabama came in, so we show it as one department within the mutual aid organization, but there's actually 24 departments within that county. So when we look at it, you know, when we call roll, we call DeKalb County, but ultimately there's 24 departments in there. McMinn County, Tennessee, there's 12 departments in McMinn County that are covered under the McMinn name. So when you look at some of the counties that are in this organization, there's multiple departments in it.
Or is this association, does it cover all of Tennessee?
No, it just
Okay.
Southeast Tennessee. It's an area that's about 100 miles long from top to bottom. So Madisonville, Tennessee to Chattooga County, Georgia.
Okay.
And then the county's kind of off to the sides and up. We also offer CPR and first aid classes to the public, home fire safety inspections, and smoke detector installations, and of course, battery changes. Now I'll get into the meat of the presentation tonight, which is our budget. So the first line item is our full-time employee salaries, and there is 15 employees in this line item, of which we have the fire chief's salary, the deputy chief's salary, the fire training captain's salary, the 3 full-time captains' salaries, the 3 lieutenants' salaries, and then of course the 6 firefighter drivers' salaries. Now, one thing that I want everybody to know is the captains, lieutenants, and the firefighters in the operation work a 53-hour work week, not a 40-hour work week, and that's federal law.
We can't get you to 60. Asking for a friend.
Unfortunately not,
Right.
because a lot of people don't understand how firefighters work, and so it essentially works out to a 53-hour work week.
Right.
I just want to make sure everybody knows that. Our next line item is our overtime line item, which was increased in this budget year to $30,000. It hadn't been increased for inflation or anything in multiple years. And in years past, you can see that from the other form from the city hall that we were constantly over our $9,500. So that's just $30,000. Our next line item is like the police chief talked about, the police supplemental salary. This is what we call a wash. Money's in. The money's come from the state of Tennessee, and then we pay them out to the firefighters that complete the in service. And it's broke down into two things. Our part-time also are eligible for this, but at a smaller rate than the full-time employees. So the state of Tennessee and the Fire Commission 2 years ago actually got it approved and budgeted money in the state budget to pay part-time / volunteer firefighters to get a state supplement salary. So we have 15 full-time members that get this salary, and usually 6 to 7 part-time members. It's hard to budget, so I budget for 6, but it's money in, money out. Money comes from the state of Tennessee. It's not general fund monies. We do have to, and I'll talk about it in a minute, we do have to budget for the Social Security part of it. Our next line item is our holiday pay for our operations division. Like the police chief said, sometimes they take off in lieu of the pay, so we don't always spend this money, which is $41,360. So you have 3 captains, 3 lieutenants, and 6 firefighters. Sometimes they would just assume take the day off in lieu of the pay. So we don't always spend that money. And of course, it has an increase because we went to 14 holidays last year. Our part-time line item is the next line item on the budget. It's $204,578. That breaks down to 8,736 hours to staff the station 24 hours a day. So we have a 24-hour staffing at Station 1, and just to staff that's 8,736 hours, which equates to $163,843. We also have money in this line item to pay our part-time employees to cover for when our full-timers are on their mandated day off. They have to schedule every 27 days, a 12-hour scheduled day off. We call it a Kelly Day, and that came from the Chicago Fire Department from many years ago because they figured out then, and there was a gentleman named Kelly, so it's called a Kelly Day. So we budget 1,872 hours. That's 12 members at 156 hours a year that they have to be scheduled off. And that would be a hole where nobody could be at the firehouse, so we schedule a part-timer to cover that shift at $35,109. If we didn't do this, it would cost us $85,000 in overtime cost. And then we have another line in this. We have an estimate of about 300 hours for callbacks and training after hours training. It's not on duty training. And this is just an estimate based on previous years. So 300 hours is $5,626, which gets us our $204,578. So this line item right here is what gives us our 5 employees on duty 7 days a week, 4 full-time employees and a part-timer. So that line is 10,908 hours is what we budget for there. And then, of course, this picture here just shows how we come up with the 10,000 hours. A day shift at 7 days a week, 12 hours a day is 84 hours a week, so it's 4,368. Then you multiply it for night shift. Then you have your Kelly days, and then our callbacks at 300 hours, so it's 10,908 hours.
Chief, on that previous slide, you, the Kelly Day, budget, 35,000, you said would be 85,000 if you paid overtime.
Yes, ma'am. That line.
So it would be 50,000 more.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next line on in our budget is our longevity pay. It's $18,138. Speaking of the budget form, the form I gave y'all that was laying on your desk, on the far right-hand column is pluses and minuses. For that
It's very
commissioner
helpful,
that
thank you.
likes those things. Our next line item is, of course, our Christmas bonus. So we have to budget for our full-time employees and our part-time employees. So we budget 15 full-time employees and 28 part-time employees. And that's where we get our $3,140. Oh, wow. Yep. That program went all over the place, Dan. So this line item is our Social Security. And to come up with how much we need to budget for Social Security on the city side, we have to figure in the full-time gross salaries, the overtime budget, our holiday pay, our part-time salary line item, our salary supplement, both full-time and part-time, our longevity pay, and all of the Christmas bonus. So it takes all of those to figure how much the city's portion of that is. And then the city's portion is 7.65% of all of those all of those numbers added up, which is 94,958. And then our next line item is our employee retirement, which is almost the same as the Social Security, except you don't include the part-time, because part-time doesn't get retirement.
Mhm.
And then we also only have to include the Christmas bonus out of the full-time line item. And then I was told tonight that we do not include the salary supplement. So it should be actually 147,000 and some change instead of the 149 I have right here. I learned tonight that we don't do retirement on the salary supplement. And it's 14, which it was an increase this year. It's 14.48%. Next is our workman's compensation. This is just 2 deductibles at $1,000 each. The goal is to never have to use our workman's
Well,
compensation.
so this is just the deductible, is that it?
Well, it's money budgeted for deductible. If we don't meet where we have unfortunately a big claim, then the smaller stuff will also come out of this. I've seen little small numbers come out of it where the claim wasn't big enough to actually make the deductible of 1,000, and so the city made the smaller payments on the small.
Reported only. Right, right,
The goal is to never use that line item.
yeah.
And so our next line item, we'll get into the operations part of the fire department. And, oh yeah, that program really did a number on this one. So the next one is our education and training. And this line item is $54,550. It's an increase of $220 last year. And we were just trying to catch up with inflation and the cost of everything else going up. So within this line item, which y'all can't see all of it, is the Fire Department Instructors Conference, which is held in Indianapolis. It's the largest conference where all the new technology and all the new stuff comes out for the fire department. And usually about 35,000 people worldwide attend this conference. And as a matter of fact, myself and the training captain and another firefighter will be there next week. So we budget for 4 to go. Next in this one is, of course, it's various classes, seminars, state training, some fire chief meetings that become available that might need to be attended, so we have $5,000 for that. The next line is our fire inspectors, the fire marshal, and fire investigators, research classes and continuing education. Everything we do always has continuing education involved in it. So for those line items, we have to budget money for classes to keep the certifications up. And then we require medical certification of our firefighters. So the next line item is to pay for the research fee for everybody's, whether it's an EMT, first responder, and that stuff. We pay their research fee because we require that for the job. So it's $1,250. And then, of course, program support. That's different supplies. If we're going to do an attic simulation on one of the props out at behind Station 2, you have to go buy sheetrock to do it. So you've got to buy sheetrock. So this pays for the sheetrock. If you're going to do a live burn exercise, then you're going to have to buy wood. And so this pays for the supplies that ultimately get used. Then we have some money for the building inspector classes recertification. And then we have $30,000 for fire training props and expendable supplies. And that is where we're working on that training field behind Station 2, constantly adding and growing things to it. This is to continue what we started last year with last year's money, so this year, current year's money.
Does that include that multiple use machine?
The Taylor prop.
The tailored prop, hopefully it'll be delivered soon. What this is for is supplies, because we'll have to buy some things for it that are partly expendable, and they'll actually come out of it. We'll have to buy some wood, and we had to buy a window for the Connex boxes that are back behind Station 2 that we'll use for training. We had to buy a training window for it, because it's, like I say, it's a work in progress. It's not an overnight thing, and so that's where the money's come from for that stuff.
Is that where the Taylor machine will go?
Yes, ma'am.
Behind
When
Station Two?
it finally gets here, that's where it will be going. And then, of course, the medical training, you've got to buy new AED, or not AED, but CPR mannequins.
Mhm.
So we got to do that. And then for different other things within our medical thing, you have to buy training devices, airways, mannequins to take airways and things like that. And we don't have any of that, so that's kind of a new line item for this year.
I didn't realize you all didn't have the tailored prop yet. Do you have any idea when it's maybe going to be delivered?
We were this month or next month is on target for the time frame that we got.
Okay.
So we're just kind of in a holding pattern.
Waiting.
We got an email that says it's almost done.
Okay. Excellent.
So the time window on it was this month and next month. So we're hoping to see it soon.
And y'all have already paid for that
They require
just
payment up front.
upfront. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Our next line item in our budget is our contractual services, and like the police chief said, Hamilton County 911 we had a 13% overall increase to $249,689 citywide. And for years, finance always broke up that payment. Fire department got 11% of the payment, and the police department got the 89%. So our part was $27,424. The radio system, which we use in Hamilton County and actually all of East Tennessee, it's pretty cheap for us. We have 63 radios. It costs us $120 a year to be on that system, but that includes repairs and things like that when the radios are outside warranty. So it costs us $7,600 just to help our portion to maintain that radio system. I think their annual budget's about $10 million to maintain that radio system. And so the fire department, Red Bank Fire Department portion $7,600. So
Not bad.
that's a good deal. We have VoltCAD in 7 vehicles. And to access, we have to pay the fees to use the program. So that's $2,200 a year. And then we have 3 vehicles that have GPS on it. So that's $252 a year. So that brings that line item to $37,474. So it's showing about a $3,600 increase from last year. Our next line is our membership registration and registration fees. These are the associations that we're members of. We have the NFPA for myself and the fire marshal, the State Fire Chiefs Association for myself and the deputy chief, the Tennessee Firemen's Association, our mutual aid dues to belong to Tri-State Mutual Aid. We have our trade publications, which is your Firehouse Magazine, fire engineering, fire rescue, the list goes on and on, but they provide training topics and articles and keeps us abreast of what's going on in the fire world. IAAI, which is the International Association of Arson Investigators, there's 4 members, so that pays the fees for those 4. And then the IAFC, which is the International Association of Fire Chiefs, myself and the deputy chief. The ISFSI, which is the International Society of Fire Service Instructors. So the training instructor, this training captain is a member of that. And then we have the ICC, and the city has a membership, and the fire department's always paid the city's membership in the International Code Council. Next, you'll see a bunch of zeros: electric, water, and natural gas. Those are costs that have all been transferred to the facilities maintenance budget.
Oh, okay, that's where they went.
I
I didn't know.
We just don't have to
I was
pay
like,
them
boy,
anymore.
you must have really cut a deal with
APB.
No, those are transferred to the facilities maintenance budget. So now all of the city's facilities are under his budget.
All right.
Next on our list is our fire hydrant rental, and it's called fire hydrant rental, but it's actually fire hydrant maintenance fees. We have to pay Hickson Utility $50 a year for 55 hydrants, which equates to $2,752. When we train at Station 2, I can guarantee you that we use more than $2,752 worth of water. So they call it a hydrant maintenance fee. I think it pays for the water we use training.
You don't have to do that for any hydrants connected to Tennessee American Water? Interesting.
The legislature many years ago enacted a law that says a private water company cannot charge municipalities for fire hydrants.
Okay.
But Hickson Utility is a utility, not a private business, and so they can still do it. And so there was a renegotiation of the contract then. Next is our cell phone expense. Myself, the fire marshal, the training captain, and the shift commanders share a phone. So we have 4 cell phones in the fire department. Goes out to $2,000 a year. And then we have, just like the police officers, there's 7 vehicles that have mobile CAD in them. So we have to have a data card in them so that they are always connected to the internet. So there's 7 vehicles. And so that comes out to $27.92. So our cell phone expense is $48.21. And like I said during the police chief's earlier, when AT&T had their, because it's the FirstNet's built on the AT&T backbone. When AT&T had their big problem here a couple of months ago, the FirstNet phones never quit.
Excellent.
Now, this is a new line item for the fire department. You'll notice that it says 0 across, and then all of a sudden there's $10,500. For years, we budgeted all of our physicals and drug screens in our supplies budget. And the supplies budget's this great big wad of things. And so I went to the previous CFO and said, can we get a separate line to move this out for better accounting?
Mhm.
And he's like, well, sure. So that's how come we have a new 251 and it says 0 for previous years, because we've moved money from one line item to the other to fund the same thing that we've been doing.
That's why there's a big difference in the supply.
Yes, sir. And a big jump in this line item. When you look at it,
Yeah.
it shows a 10.5 jump. So there's 25, we have 25 members we have to pay for physicals, at approximately $400 a year. And then we have the random drug screens that we have to budget for. And so those are about $500 a year for those. Our next line item is our computer software. We have our first new fire data management system that we came to y'all 3 years ago to approve to go to. So this is year 3 of a 5-year contract, same rate at $9,000. This is our records management system that keeps up with all the records for all of our firefighters and all of that stuff, and our calls and stuff that we have to report to the feds. Then we have our Vector Solutions in here, training software, which keeps up with all the training. And then of course has these thousands and thousands of training classes that you can go and do self-assign yourself and do these things. And they also have medical training. So for those of us that are EMTs that have to have extra hours more than an EMR, we can go and use this program and also get our medical training that's required by the state of Tennessee.
So it does count for like CEU
Yes, ma'am.
credits? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
that's great.
And so we actually had a little bit of an increase this year because we had to increase, we had an increase in the number of seats they call employee seats. And we also added the checkoffs where we have our driver checkoffs and things like that on a piece of paper. They're now electronic. So it makes it much easier and stops all the paper. So when you add things like that, they also add cost to you. And then we have our digital display boards, which we're still in the process of working on at the fire halls, that will display where calls are at, things going on in the fire hall, the shifts working, apparatus, condition of apparatus, whether it's in service, out of service. It's actually quite a few things, but it's actually something we're still working on, but I went ahead and budgeted for next year. So we're working on it this year. So that line item shows a little bit of an increase because of the increase in seats and the digital display boards. Our next line item is repair and maintenance of buildings. It shows a big 0, so that all went to the facilities management budget. And of course, a lot of the stuff we did last year in the 53,000 was a one-time thing. There's a $11,500 moved to the facilities management and reoccurring cost. Next is our travel line item, and these are the conferences that we go to that are very good and for CEUs and to keep all of our certifications up. So we have Fire Department Instructors Conference, the Tennessee chapter of the International Association of Arson Investigators, which is in Ford every year. So that's where our fire investigators, our ECTs, which is evidence collection technicians, our FITs, which is, they call them FIT, but certified shovel operator is what I call him. We all have to have CEUs to keep those certifications up. So,
What's he shovel? Ashes?
yes, ma'am. Fire debris.
Mm.
Their certification.
And then it's
Fire
study.
investigation technician.
Okay, investigate. Cool.
The Tennessee Fire Safety Inspectors Association, that's for the fire inspector for life safety. So the fire marshals got that certification. I still have my certification. And then we have 2 other firefighters on staff that have gone and gotten certified. Tennessee Building Officials Conference, which that would be for me. The Tennessee Fire Chiefs Conference, which is the big chiefs conference held every year in Murfreesboro for the fire chief you get together with the fire chiefs and they have classes and seminars. The International Association of Fire Chiefs Conference this year, the Southeast Chiefs Conference is going to be held in Cobb County in Atlanta. And so myself and the deputy fire chief would like to go to that since it's in our back door. So we budgeted money for that. Then we have a new one, the Southeastern Extrication School. The Southeastern Extrication School is the old Georgia Extrication School. Many retired members of the fire department and myself have been to the Georgia Extrication School. It's one of the premier extrication schools in the country. And we thought it was dead and gone when it disappeared in the early 2000s, And lo and behold, they resurrected it in Hartsville, South Carolina. And so we sent 4 guys about 3 weeks ago over, and they said it was absolutely wonderful, great training. So we budgeted to go back next year. And then we have some extra monies in case something else comes up we don't know about that may be beneficial to go to. So that budget is $17,000, because as we all know, travel is expensive now. And all of these things, we take city vehicles and drive to. There's no flying, taking city vehicles. Our next line item is our supplies budget, which is our 300 account. Looking at the sheet, it dropped significantly, but like I said, we moved all the medical stuff out of it. So this is our cleaning aids for our stations, our batteries for our equipment to take batteries. It takes $300 a year to just keep the batteries replaced in our breathing apparatus. We have 6 or 7 battery operated fans that take 60-volt DeWalt batteries, and occasionally those quit. And those batteries are about $250 a piece. So we budget $1,000 for batteries. Every few years we have to host a mutual aid meeting, but for the most part, this is to do our awards breakfast every year, so food and awards. Our Hurst tool maintenance, we're required annually to have this maintenance done to keep our warranty on our tools. We've had some problems with them. We've had some breakages, and that's all been covered under warranty because we had the maintenance done on them. Our SCBA, our breathing apparatus, are required to be flow tested annually, so we have a fee to do that. Our ground ladders are required to be tested annually, so we have to do that. We have each station has its own generator. To properly maintain them, they're serviced every 6 months, and it's about $2,800 to service those generators twice a year. And when you keep them serviced, they also stay in peak operation and run when you need them. And then our 4 pumpers are required to be tested annually, and a guy comes in with a trailer and he knocks them out in about 4 hours with Station 2. And so they're required, and it would cost me more than that in overtime to try to do it ourselves. So that's within our supplies budget. Next is our 310 office supplies. So this is where we buy toner for our printers and things like that. Office supplies. Next is our clothing and uniforms budget. We budget $200 per year per member for 45 members at $9,000. And then turnout gear has had a significant price increase. So yes, we bought 39 sets this year, but we also have to remember everybody's got another set of gear that are varying ages. And so that set of gear will start aging out. And so we've got to replace that. So this 6 sets of turnout gear keeps us on par with those gear on that turnout gear as it ages out to replace it. And as the cost of turnout gear has gone up, the number of sets we can buy kind of goes down a little bit. But if you'll notice, I put in red on the thing. Just the coat and the pants is $3,200. The boots are $550. The helmet's $400, and actually, I think I missed the mark there. The Nomex hood's $150. So this Nomex hood you wear around your head and your neck is $150. When I started in the fire service, they were $5.
So is that exactly what you're expecting 6 sets to age out this year? Okay.
Or if we were to add to our part-time pool, because we don't have a set number of part-time employees, we just have a pool of part-time employees. If we were to add to, and we don't have any gear available to fit them, then we would have to buy them a set. So that would come out of this also.
Okay.
Next is our fuel. This is a best guess based on me tracking our fuel usage with the great documentation from City Hall. We're averaging 413 gallons of fuel per month at an average cost of $3 and a penny, and that's for diesel and gasoline.
Right, cause it just says gasoline, so I was gonna ask that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's an average cost between the two, because gas has been less than 3 and diesel's been above 3, so it kind of averages out. Our average miles per gallon is 5 miles to the gallon, but that includes your 47,000 pound trucks that get about 3.5 to your smaller trucks that get 12, 15, and 17. So it kind of pulls them around a little bit. And then there's $1,000 also in there for the oil and the filters and the fuel filters. Our vehicle parts, we left the same. That we just don't have no idea. So we budget $15,000. This year we've got an extra $35,000 expenditure for the engine that y'all approved for the 2004 truck. It's got to have an engine put in it. Next is our breathing air compressor that has to be maintained to make sure the air is good in it. So we put it in our SCBA, and it costs us about $1,600 a year to have it serviced twice a year. Next is our tubes, tires, and repairs. We have caught up where everything has a brand new set of tires on it.
That's amazing.
It is, because a set of tires for a fire truck is about $7,000. So we have caught up. Everything has new sets of tires on it. And so we just budgeted for miscellaneous repairs. You run over a nail or something, and you have to replace a tire. In emergency truck, in emergency equipment, you don't patch it, you replace it. So we're just budgeting. So you'll see a decrease, and that's the reason why. Next is our liability insurance. This is a supplemental policy we've had for 20 plus years that covers our volunteers and part-time. If they get hurt here, our workman's comp takes care of them. But it only takes care of them to up what they made working here. It doesn't help with their full-time job. So this is a supplement to help supplement their pay from their full-time job. This is year 2 of it renews in 3-year increments. And so this is year 2, and it's actually only $25 more than it was in the last renewal period. This is our debt service. So in the fire department debt service, we have the new administration vehicle. We have the fire engine, which was ordered in 2021, but the loan wasn't taken out to 2023. So the payments don't start till 2023. So it goes off the books in 2031. And then we have the equipment that we bought last year. The equipment that we got with the loan, which is the gear, the computers, the training prop, and so that's what's in ours. This line item is our machinery and equipment. It's our 940. I guess it's capital. $5,000 for small equipment and repairs. Things break all the time. Year 2 of trying to replace some of the 20-year-old fire hose. The idea is to replace 2,000 foot of 5-inch hose. Our hose truck carries 1,500 feet and it's 600 feet short. We lost testing this year. So the idea is to replace the hose on it and part of the pump. Next is the next one is we have rope equipment on our rescue truck. Some of it is as old as 30 years old. Well, we found out that the 30-year-old stuff in the picture, back then, we didn't know any better, and we engraved ID numbers on it. You're not supposed to do that. Wasn't me. That was for me. So this $8,000 is to replace that equipment and to replace our rope, because our rope's hit its end of life stage. It's 10 years old. It's time to replace the rope. And so we're actually going to change the rope and downsize to what everybody around us has gone to and update so that we all match. So when we end up on a mutual aid call, all of the stuff's the same. The next is the Line Bullets Intelligent Training System. This is a fire extinguisher training prop. It uses propane for live fire. We can use it for us, and we can use it for the public to teach them how to use a fire extinguisher properly. And so we put $20,000 in to cover the cost of that. And then the last item in this one is a cover for the training grounds behind Station 2. like the metal garages, the metal carport garages, we're wanting to put a little cover to kind of make an outdoor classroom with some bleachers, so when you're out there training and you've got all that dirty turnout gear on from training, you don't drag it back into the fire station. You can have an outdoor classroom in the shade, because we're always outside in the sun. So this would give us a place to go out of the shade, even though it's outside, and still be in the shade and keep that turnout gear outside. So we estimate $4,000 for one of those little structures to go back there. So that's $62,000. And our last line item in our budget is our communications equipment. We budget $2,000 for batteries and to repair our radios, speaker mics, things like that if they go bad. Biggest thing is batteries. They don't make batteries to last anymore. The last thing I want to talk to you about is future needs of the fire department. I have sat and studied and come up with a 5-year plan, not starting the next FY25, but it's something to look at in future years to increase fire department full-time staffing from 4 to 7. I built it over a 5-year plan because it uses the part-time money, because the part-time employees make the same hourly rate as a full-time firefighter. So the monies are the same. So it uses a plan to use the part-time line item to then, after 2 years, convert the 24 hours into FTEs because the salary's there. And in the next budget year, I would ask for another 12 hours of part-time, which is about $90,000. So the 5-year plan is a cost of around $100,000 a year over 5 years to increase that to that 9 additional firefighters without trying to get it in 1 year at $500,000. It's just something I put together. It's a need of the fire department. And I tried to come up with the most cost-effective way to try to do something like that for the fire department and increase our full-time staffing, because right now I can only guarantee 4 people are going to show up, even though there's 5 on duty. Sometimes our part-time employees call in for the last minute if it's a part-time job, or they're not available to work a shift. So having a full-time employee would guarantee that there would be people at work instead of a minimum of 4. Right now we have a minimum of 4, and it's still a minimum of 4 because it's 4 full-time employees. So this plan works out over 5 years. It would start in FY26 if the commission thought to do it, and it would take 5 years at a roughly $100,000 a year. And it would add 3. It would add 3 full-time employees, and in the next budget and 12 hours of part-time. Then the next budget year would just add 12 hours of part-time, and at that you've got 24 hours of part-time. Well, the next budget year it would add 3 full-time employees because the salaries are there, and then add an additional 12 hours of part-time. The next year add an additional 12, which would then be 24, and then the next year add the 3 FTEs because the salary's there. It's all spelled out there. I would love to talk to you all about it more, but tonight we're for time, so I just wanted to start talking about FY26 tonight and needs in the fire department.
Thank you for that. This is very detailed, much appreciated. Just one question. If you only have 4 firefighters guaranteed, and you don't have anybody else that can come in, but you're available or another firefighter is available, then we pay you overtime, right? To show up? Is that how that works?
Not me, I'm salaried.
You're salaried.
But
Other firefighters.
Other firefighters come in, they get paid for coming to calls. Yes,
Okay.
That's what that extra line item, callbacks and training for
Yeah.
the part-timers, that's what they're for. And when the full-timers come to calls, when they're not on shift, it's actually overtime. So
Okay.
that's what the $30,000 for, and overtime is for those things.
In mutual aid, you pay into that organization,
But we just pay a fee of $100 to be a member.
and there's no additional fee or salary fee paid for them to come.
No, ma'am.
Fees that you're helping each other.
Yeah, because sometimes they help you fight the fire, sometimes they cake your calls, right? I mean,
Because you'll see a different colored fire truck sitting at the fire station, maybe. It may be a Dallas Bay engine, from Dallas Bay, or a Saudi Daisy engine covering calls in Red Bank, or Chattanooga.
And then you've gone to city.
We go to a lot of places.
Yeah.
The other night, the UTV ended up out in Tri-Community in Ooltewah. They had a very large brush fire with access issues.
Chief, from a fire perspective, would you characterize the mutual aid? I've typically characterized it broadly with both police and fire as it's close to 50-50, give versus get.
Yes,
With Red Bank typically slightly an exporter, like 51-49.
yes, sir. We tend to run more mutual aid alarms out of Red Bank than we actually have come to Red Bank. It just works that way. And, but it's a system that works well. It's been in place since 1974. And in 1974, it was 9 departments that started it, and now we're up over 100 in the 100-mile range
In the 4 states.
in 4 states.
It's huge.
How do
For
you trans-
$100 a year.
Yeah.
Because there's the precedent came from Illinois, and their mutual aid system up there, their fees were $500 to $1,000 a year to be a member of that association
How do you transport the ATV?
on a trailer.
Okay.
It has its own trailer. It stays strapped to it 24/7, 365. And we have 4 vehicles that can pull, the 3 staff vehicles and the hose truck.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions for the chief? All right, thank you so
Question
much,
from me.
Chief Seiler. We appreciate it. And the second to last item on our agenda, but the last budget presentation is from our court epic superstar, as Mr. Branham would say,
Absolutely.
Alicia
Thank you,
Donahue. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Alright, good evening, everyone. Like I said, I'm Alicia Donahue. I'm the court clerk. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm gonna start off with some of the goals we have this year for the court. A new payment plan, the driver's license reinstatement program, restoration of the Red Bank Community Service Public Work Days, transition to the Hamilton County Criminal Justice Software, exploring options with a collection agency, continuing training, and writing a standard operating procedure for the court. I want to touch on the 2 underlying options there. The driver's license reinstatement program is a program that I just attended a conference last week, and Knox County is the only county in Tennessee that has this program. And it's all the courts in your area. You get together and you find what a person needs to have their driver's license. Most of the time it's because they owe court costs and fines.
Mhm.
And so this plan is a payment plan where you get this person on a payment plan for each court. There's a payment plan form from the state. You fill that out in the court for them. They take it to the DMV. They're able to get their driver's license reinstated, even though they still owe court costs. They're on a payment plan with us. And then you set a set amount every month, and then they would pay that amount every month. At that point, they're able to get a job. A lot of times, no license is keeping these people from getting a job. So I'm really looking forward to working with some of the other courts on hopefully getting this program started.
If it's just for fees and everything, they don't have
Yes,
they don't have restrictions on there for like,
Correct.
okay,
There's
that's cool.
There's a new program that I'm getting logins for, and you're able to pull up somebody's driver's license, and it'll tell you what is holding their driver's license. And so when somebody applies for this program, we would run their eligibility and make sure it's just for fines and costs. Because a lot of times they have fines and costs in multiple courts, so it's making it very difficult for them to get their driver's license.
Would they still have to pay each of the courts like individually?
They would.
Okay.
But
It's not like one system and then it's
Correct.
dispersed to each of
Yes.
the participating
Yes.
courts. Okay. That would make it maybe a little more efficient, but maybe they'll get there eventually.
Yeah, and maybe we could work on something for it be just one payment, and it would be dispersed to each, but
Sure.
initially it would be each court they have to make their payments to.
Would they still be eligible if they owe restitution to a victim? Or is it just
I
court
don't
costs,
think
fees and fines?
restitutions hold driver's license.
Okay,
I I don't believe they do.
Okay.
A lot of times restitutions, if they're not paying those, that's a probation
Sure.
violation. So-
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and the second thing that's underlined is that criminal justice software. Hamilton County uses their own criminal justice software, and I've been trying to get onto that, and it's a program that the jail uses and the courts, and some of the other courts are starting to get onto it, and they use an electronic bonding system as well, so the bondsmen don't have to come out to the agencies and fill out those bonds, and they would do them electronically, so it's a more efficient and quicker process.
Mhm.
Some of the ongoing projects we have is training. Training is a constant with us. Ally and I are working towards getting our certified court clerk certificate through MTAS. And because of the training the city of Red Bank is investing in us, we have learned a tremendous amount of information. And we've been able to create new ways to help Red Bank citizens get their driver's license back, as well as catch up on some of their court calls. And due to the new processes implemented from the training I've received, court clerks from other municipalities have started calling me to reach out for advice and find out some of the procedures we're now using. And the biggest one is our digitization of the records. It is now in procurement. We have accepted some of the bids and we've been vetting some of the services in each so that we can make our decision. Some of the biggest challenges we have is getting the message out there to people so that they understand that we're willing to work with them. Instead of not showing up on their review date to pay their court costs, we're willing to reschedule that and give them more time, because in the past, if they've missed it, you automatically get a arrest report and you go to jail. Well, that's taking time away from your work and costing more money. Another challenge is our limitation on collecting some of these older costs. This is where maybe using a collection agency could assist us in some ways. And then the inability of some to pay. Thus is our intention to restart our work days. This can offset some of the costs that people owe. A look at some of our fiscal year 23 versus 24. Right now, just short of 2 months left to go, we're just over $10,000 ahead of last year's collections. The improved collections is due to our payment plan system and following up with those who missed their court's review date. Giving them an opportunity to reschedule those review dates to pay instead of automatically issuing a warrant encourages them to communicate with us if they need more time. And then you get into the budget. The first items are the personnel. So we've got the salary. The change there mostly is in overtime. We've not really budgeted for overtime in the past. And the reason being, when I became court clerk, I passed it on to the police chief that I would be available for officers to come to sign warrants after hours. That takes, if they're going out to the jail to get the magistrate to sign a warrant, it takes an hour and a half roughly for an officer to drive out there, wait and have the paperwork signed, and they're out of the city not being able to do their job. And because I live in the area, I'm able to either come here or they can come to me so I can sign those. So that's where that overtime is for after hours and coming in to make bonds for when bondsmen come in or cash bonds.
Alicia, can I also?
Yes.
It's my insistent that we pay Alicia when she does that for us too, so I'm pushing that.
Yes.
That's-
Wait, you don't, no, you don't work without getting compensated, so.
And then you got the part-time and temporary. Most of ours is we've got 2 part-time, which is the judge, and then we have a part-time court assistant. The temporary, we did use a little bit this past year due to court clerk being out, deputy court clerk being out for maternity leave. That's why that number is a little higher.
Okay.
Longevity and bonus is still the same. And the FICA and retirement went up a little just for,
The
adjustment
COLA,
for cost of, I'm
the
sorry?
COLA, you saying just for the COLA.
Yes, for the COLA. And then the education and training, that includes like the MTAS and TAMCAR conferences, and then we have a foundations class. All of those and virtual classes go into that court clerk certificate program. So that's where all the employee comes from. Our contractual services is about the same. That is for all of our court software. Cell phones are the same. Our repairs and maintenance went down a little because last year we did an office remodel, so that's why we didn't need as much as we did last year, so that went down. The travel went up a little bit just because the cost of travel has increased and classes have increased. The office supplies did go down because last year there were some things I had to order that we will still be using this year, and we won't have to cover that cost this year. And then the last one is that $500 for miscellaneous computer equipment, anything, monitors, mouse, keyboarding, kind of cables are need to be replaced. So with all those changes, a little bit of increase for the salaries and the decrease in the repairs, it's just over a $2,500 increase from last year.
And that's with the 3%
That is with
COLA.
the COLA, yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're doing a lot with only an extra $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
And only two people overall.
Yes,
And only 2 staff, yeah.
we do have the 2
Full-time
full-time and the 2 part-time, so.
When you come in on Monday and see the just amazing level of service delivery that happens in this courtroom, directly supporting our elected judge,
Mhm.
the room's packed. The assistant district attorney is here and gets real fast.
It does, and
And
prior to, it's really busy for the phones and
Yeah, and Alicia is the choreographer of everything that happens in this courtroom. It's truly a remarkable thing. If you haven't come in and seen every Monday, what time should they be here, Alicia?
court starts at 1:30.
Court starts at 1:30. Address appropriate.
That is, traffic court, yes. Criminal docket starts at 2 o'clock, so.
It's, a lot of people don't understand the business that the city of Red Bank is in our court function, but it's very real.
Alicia, can you talk a little bit about what would the community service work days look like and how would that be coordinated? Like would, our police department be assisting with that? Would it be public works?
Public Works, we actually we've kind of touched on it. It would be, what do we decide, once a month? One Saturday a month.
Okay,
And, it would just be to offset costs for people that,
Sure.
Not necessarily are indigent, but are struggling to pay their costs. And obviously it would be for certain charges, less, less violent, less, we don't want those people out in the community
Mhm.
necessarily. And it would be coordinated through me, and Public Works would provide, was it 2? 2 of the workers on Saturdays to escort people around doing basically trash pickup.
okay.
And it's also, you can be no more than 3 work days.
Correct.
If you have more than 3 work days, then you go back into the Hamilton County work program. So this is really an opportunity for Red Bank to benefit from that free labor here in Red Bank. But we don't do it daily, we only do it
Right.
once a month. So if people need more than 3 days, they'll go back into the county program.
Right, that's why they're limited to 3, so that if they're having to do 5 or 6, that could take 6, 8, 10 months for them to complete those. So it'd be
Okay.
easier to just go to Hamilton County to do those.
Okay.
Public Works days that are more than 3.
I love that. So we did it before?
This is all Alicia.
How?
I just want to give Alicia credit. This is the transformation of our court that she has led. Way back you dial up the Wayback Machine, Red Bank did this, but it had not been Red Bank for years, really because it wasn't properly administered. And now with Alicia doing what it takes from the court side, all that the Public Works team has to do is just work the Public Works piece of it. The thing had come off the rails past because the court wasn't doing the court side and Greg was having to do all the court administration, and that was not appropriate for Public Works. So we have reconfigured this so that Public Works does the Public Works side, the court does the court side,
Okay.
and we benefit from this opportunity to help these people, pay back their debts.
Mhm.
And benefit from that labor here in Red Bank.
Okay, that's great. I love it.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Jamie? Nope. Okay.
Well, it looks like y'all stayed within budget anyway. Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now is the time for citizen comments on items on the agenda. Mr. Granum, if you will read the parameters protocol.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Now's the time for citizen comments. The court recorder, the city recorder will operate the time. Do you have the timer? Ready? Okay, Summer has a timer ready to go. Please observe her direction as time expires. Please do not anticipate, in this workshop, maybe there is an opportunity for a little more back and forth as the commission is comfortable with. So at this time, you're invited to come up and please state your name and address.
Anybody? Nope. Okay, not today. I guess we all needed, oh, Mr. McCabe, come on up.
No trouble. I just want to publicly,
Oh, state your name and address, Mr.
Clifford McKay, Berkeley, I applaud her for her presentation. Yes,
Thank you, Clifford. All right, if we have no other citizen comments, Mr. Granum?
Vice Mayor, thank you. I just want to compliment Jennifer Wakecaster and Ruthie Rowan. Both of them are sharing responsibilities of interim CFO. And it's big shoes to fill into, to step into, and they're doing a great job.
Excellent, yes. Thank you both for everything you're doing for us right now. All right, if that is it, then I guess do I need a motion to adjourn? Do I need to do that in a workshop? Sure.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I guess Pete moved.
Yeah, yes, I'll move it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, guys. Awesome.
It'll be a little smoother next time.
Oh, it was perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.